What if I told you the simple act of checking your calendar today, looking at your phone or the wall, connects you directly to ancient Babylonian priests, maybe even corrupt Roman politicians, and centuries of religious debate?
It sounds dramatic, but it's true. That calendar isn't just a grid of numbers. It's this monumental human achievement.
Right, born from looking up at the stars, figuring out the cosmos, but also driven by, well, political power plays and religious necessity.
It's a truly incredible story, really. For millennia, humanity has been trying to measure, order, and sometimes even, well, manipulate time itself.
Yeah.
And this deep dive into the calendar's winding history, it reveals so much about who we are, how our societies were built.
Absolutely. So welcome. Today we're diving deep into this surprisingly turbulent history of how humanity tried to master time. We'll unpack the core astronomical challenges early civilizations faced when they looked up,
And explore how power and politics literally shaped timekeeping. It's fascinating.
and discover why, despite all its quirks, and it does have quirks, we still use the calendar we do today. We've pulled out the most important insights from our sources to really get you up to speed on this fundamental part of daily life.
And understanding this isn't just academic, it's not just about dates, it's about human ingenuity, it's about cultural values.
Yeah.
And the surprising ways something as basic as our shared sense of time is deeply influenced by our past. It impacts everything, from how we grow our food to when we celebrate.
Totally. Okay, so let's start with the fundamental problem.
Yeah.
When ancient people first looked up, what was the very first hurdle? Our sources call it the mathematical awkwardness of nature's own rhythms. What does that mean exactly?
It means the universe isn't perfectly neat, at least not for calendar makers. There are three fundamental observable cycles. First, the day, Earth spinning. Simple
Well,
enough, right?
One rotation, got it.
Second, the synodic month. That's the time it takes for the moon to go through all its phases, new moon, full moon, back again. It averages out to about 29 and a half days. 29.53 to be more precise.
Okay, still seems manageable. And then the big one,
Mm.
the tropical year, Earth's orbit around the sun. And that's the one that dictates the seasons.
Exactly. And that clocks in at approximately 365.2422 days.
Ah, 0.2422, there's the awkwardness.
Precisely. Here's where the trouble starts, what we call incommensurability. The tropical year does not contain a whole number of days, and crucially, it doesn't contain a whole number of lunar months either.
Right, so you can't just stack neat lunar months into a perfect solar year.
You can't. If you try to build a year out of just 12 lunar months, you get about 354, maybe 355 days. That's nearly 11 days shorter than the seasonal year.
So if you just followed the moon, your harvest festivals would end up happening in the dead of winter after a few decades.
Exactly. That's the core challenge every single civilization faced. They had to choose.
Okay, so faced with these clashing celestial rhythms, what were the main options? What kind of solutions emerged?
Well, fundamentally, three primary calendar types came about. First, you had solar calendars. These are designed to sync up directly with the tropical year, the seasons.
Which makes sense for agriculture, predicting floods, that kind of thing.
Absolutely essential. In these systems, the months become, well, kind of administrative divisions. They get divorced from the actual moon phases.
Like our modern Gregorian calendar. My birthday month doesn't really care what the moon is doing.
Pretty much. And the ancient Egyptians were pioneers here. Their entire civilization hinged on the annual, predictable flooding of the Nile.
Right, agriculture was everything.
So for them, tracking the solar year wasn't just useful, it was literally a matter of survival. They noticed something interesting, the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brightest star.
When it first appears just before sunrise.
Exactly. That consistently happened just before the Nile flood. It turned out to be a far more reliable predictor than the moon. So out of this environmental necessity, they developed the ancient world's first purely solar calendar. Quite an innovation.
Okay, so that's solar. What's the second type?
Then you have lunar calendars. These are, in a way, the simplest systems, based entirely on the moon's phases. A pure lunar year is just 12 lunar months, around 354 or 355 days.
What's the advantage there? Seems like it would drift quickly.
The big advantage is its direct connection to the visible sky. A new month begins when you actually see the new crescent moon. It's very intuitive. The Islamic calendar is the prime example of this system today.
But the drawback is significant if seasons matter to you. That 11-day drift per year.
Right. Over about 33 years, its months and festivals will cycle through every part of the solar year. Ramadan might be in summer one decade, winter a couple of decades later.
Okay, so solar syncs with seasons, lunar syncs with the moon. What's the third way? Trying to do both.
Exactly. Lunisolar calendars. These were actually the most common solution before modern times. They try to track both the moon and the sun. They're fundamentally lunar months, start with the new moon, but they periodically insert an extra month.
An intercalary month, right? Or embolismic, I think I read.
Correct. An extra month is slipped in every few years to stop the calendar drifting too far from the seasons. Think of it like a patch to keep things roughly aligned. The Babylonian, Hebrew, and Chinese calendars are all classic examples.
Now, this adding of an extra month sounds a bit messy. How do they know when to do it?
Initially, it was messy, often quite haphazard. It might be based on direct observation like, hey, the barley isn't ripe, but the calendar says it's harvest time, we better add a month. Or it could be a decree from a king or priest.
Which gives them a lot of power.
Huge power. But then came a truly profound intellectual leap, primarily from Babylonian astronomers. They discovered a predictable pattern. They figured out that 19 solar years are almost exactly equal to 235 lunar months.
Wow, that's specific. 19 years and 235 months.
It's incredibly close. This discovery, later known as the Metonic cycle, was a game changer. Think about it. Before this, timekeeping was often at the mercy of, well, human judgment or political whim.
Priests deciding when festivals happened or debts were due.
Exactly. But the Metonic cycle allowed for a predictable mathematical solution. You could plan years in advance where to insert those 7 extra months within each 19-year cycle. The calendar shifted from being about priestly discretion to becoming a predictable scientific model.
That's a massive shift. Taking time out of human hands in a way and grounding it in cosmic patterns.
It really is. And it shows how deep this impulse goes. We're talking about millennia BC, but the drive to measure time is even older. Our sources mention archaeological evidence, like that Mesolithic lunar calendar in Scotland from around 8000 BC.
Made of pits tracking lunar phases.
And possibly even older sites like the Wurdi Yuang stone arrangement in Australia, potentially over 11,000 years old, aligned with solstices. This isn't just ancient science, it's a fundamental human need, rooted deep in the Stone Age, to bring order to time through observing the heavens.
So moving from pits in the ground to actual written calendars, Mesopotamia is key. The Sumerians, right? 3rd millennium BC.
Yes, the Sumerians developed one of the earliest known formalized lunisolar calendars, 12-month, alternating 29 or 30 days, usually based on actually sighting the new crescent moon.
And their years weren't numbered like ours.
Not sequentially for long stretches, often named after significant events or a king's reign. Imagine trying to figure out chronology the year the Great Flood happened versus the 5th year of King whoever. Makes our BC Ed system seem straightforward.
Definitely. And they had that drift problem, the 354-day lunar year versus the 365-day solar year.
Right, so they used that ad hoc intercalation we talked about. But here's the crucial insight our sources highlight. This control over adding the month became a significant source of authority.
Power. Priests and kings could literally control time. When religious festivals happened, when debts were collected, even coordinating agricultural schedules. Time becomes a tool of social and economic control.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about accuracy, it was about power. But the Babylonians, who inherited and built upon the Sumerian system, brought a new level of mathematical rigor.
This is where the Metonic cycle really gets formalized.
Yes. By around 499 BC, they had systematically figured out that 19-year cycle. This allowed them to standardize the intercalation, inserting those 7 extra months at fixed points within every 19-year period. It wasn't arbitrary anymore.
A huge step towards a scientific calendar.
Massive. And this Babylonian innovation became the blueprint. It formed the structural basis for later lunisolar calendars, like the Hebrew one, and heavily influenced Greek astronomers, too.
Okay, so while Mesopotamia is refining this complex lunisolar model, what's happening over in Egypt? You mentioned their early solar calendar.
Right. Egypt took a different path. Like many cultures, they probably started with a lunar calendar for religious purposes. But for the practical stuff administration, and especially agriculture tied to the Nile, they developed a separate, purely solar civil calendar.
The dual system. That's interesting. It shows they understood different needs require different tools.
Very sophisticated. And their main driver, as we said, was the Nile flood, heralded by the rising of Sirius. By counting the days between these risings, they calculated a year of 365 days.
Simple structure.
Elegantly simple. 12-month. Each exactly 30 days long. Grouped into 3 4-month seasons. Inundation, growth, harvest, plus 5 extra days tacked on at the end.
The epigomenal days.
Exactly. Considered birthdays of the gods, a time for celebration. So 12 times 30 equals 360 plus 5 gives you 365. Very neat.
But as we established, the real year is about 365 and a quarter days. So that neat Egyptian calendar had a small error.
A small but persistent error. It drifted relative to the actual seasons by 1 day every 4 years. This is the famous Annus Vegas, the wandering year.
So the month names would slowly cycle through the seasons. A summer month would eventually become a winter month.
Over a very long time, yes. It took 360 years, a Sothic cycle, for it to fully realign with the rising of Sirius. Now, interestingly, our sources mention that in 238 BC, the Greek ruler Ptolemy III issued the Decree of Canopus. He actually proposed fixing this drift
Wow.
by adding a 6th epigomenal day every 4 years, basically a leap day.
2 centuries before Caesar, so why didn't it stick?
Resistance. The powerful Egyptian priesthood resisted the change. Tradition was strong. Maybe they felt it interfered with the divine order, or perhaps it undermined their own authority tied to the existing system. Whatever the reason, the reform wasn't implemented.
Wow. So the technically correct solution was there, but ignored for centuries because of tradition and maybe politics.
Exactly. It wasn't adopted until the Roman conquest much, much later. It's a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Good science isn't always enough to change a calendar.
Which brings us perfectly to Rome. Let's talk about their calendar journey. It starts pretty rough, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Roman tradition blames their original calendar on Romulus, the legendary founder. It was primitive. 10 months, starting in March, named for Mars, god of war, marking the start of the fighting season.
10 months. How many days?
Only 304 days, which leaves this bizarre gap of about 61 uncounted monthless days in the dead of winter. They just didn't count them.
Winter didn't count. That's wild.
Well, maybe not much campaigning or farming happening then. But the linguistic echo is still with us. Think about our months. September, October, November, December.
7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
Exactly. They're direct linguistic fossils from that original 10-month calendar, even though there now are 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th months. It's kind of amazing.
So clearly that needed fixing. Who tried next?
The second legendary king, Numa Pompilius, he's credited with adding 2 more months, Ianuarius, for Janus, god of beginnings, and Februarius, for Febua, a purification festival. It's to the end of the year.
So February was the last month. Interesting.
Initially, yes. This created a 12-month year of 355 days, which is closer to a lunar year. And to keep it aligned with the seasons, Numa supposedly introduced an intercalary month called Mercedanus.
Another attempt at lunisolar. Did it work?
Not well. The rules for adding Mercedanus were mathematically flawed and critically inconsistently applied, so drift was inevitable. And this is where Roman politics really starts to poison the well.
Here we go.
During the Roman Republic, the power to manage the calendar, specifically deciding when to insert that intercalary month, was given to the College of Pontiffs. And the head priest, the Pontifex Maximus, was often a powerful politician.
Bad combination. Power and timekeeping.
Disastrous. These officials, who were often elected magistrates themselves, blatantly abused their calendar authority for political gain.
How so?
Imagine your political allies are in office. Hey, let's add an intercalary month this year. Extends their term. Got opponents you want out. Oops, looks like we don't need an intercalary month this year. Shortens their term. They could even manipulate it to mess with elections or military campaigns.
That's incredible, weaponizing the calendar.
It's systematic manipulation, as our sources put it, and the result was utter chaos. By the mid-1st century BC, under the late Republic, the Roman calendar was about 3 months ahead of the actual seasons.
3 months. So harvest festivals were happening in the spring.
Pretty much. Nobody really knew what the correct date was. It was hindering administration, trade, military planning, everything. The system was fundamentally broken.
Enter Julius Caesar. Dictator Pontifex Maximus. He sees this mess.
And he recognizes it's not just an inconvenience, it's an obstacle to stable government. So, drawing on the best astronomical knowledge available, particularly from Sosigenes of Alexandria, who knew the Egyptian solar system well, Caesar initiated a radical and definitive reform in 46 BC.
This wasn't just tweaking. This was a major overhaul.
Absolutely. And our sources stress this wasn't just a technical fix. It was a profound expression of Caesar's absolute power. He was overriding centuries of Roman tradition, priestly authority, the whole corrupt system.
So how did he fix that 3-month drift?
Drastically. To realign the calendar with the seasons immediately, he created a one-off transitional year of unprecedented length. He added the regular intercalary month plus 2 entirely new extra months between November and December.
So 46 BC had
Yeah.
15 months.
Effectively, yes, making it a total of 445 days long. It's known as the Year of Confusion, aptly named. Our sources call it the longest year in recorded history.
I bet people were confused. Is it ever going to be 45 BC?
Huh. Probably felt like it. But once that massive correction was done, the calendar was reset. Then Caesar implemented the new system. He adopted the Egyptian solar model 365 days, but with that crucial improvement the Egyptians hadn't managed, the leap year.
The Ptolemaic idea finally gets implemented.
Yes. He established a common year of 365 days, tweaked the lengths of the existing months to make it work, and crucially, he instituted the simple, elegant rule: add one single leap day every 4 years, February 29th.
Creating a stable, purely solar calendar. No more messing around with lunar cycles or priestly interventions for intercalation.
Exactly. It was predictable, stable, and based on the solar year. And of course, Caesar left his mark quite literally. The month of Quintilis was renamed Julius July in his honor.
And his successor Augustus got August.
Right. Sextilis became Augustus, permanently stamping the calendar with imperial authority. Even February being the short month, and the one that gets leap day, is a holdover from its position near the end of the old Roman year and its association with purification rituals. It just made sense.
So the Julian calendar, a huge step forward, provided stability for, what, over 1,600 years?
A remarkable achievement, yes. But, like the Egyptian calendar it improved upon, it wasn't quite perfect. It contained a tiny, tiny flaw.
Ah, always something. What was it this time?
The Julian reform assumed the solar year was exactly 365.25 days long. That leap day every 4 years accounts for the 0.25. But as we said earlier, the true mean tropical year is slightly shorter.
365.2422 days.
Exactly. That difference, 0.000 over 8 days per year, sounds minuscule. It's about 11 minutes and 14 seconds.
Doesn't seem like much.
But it adds up. Over centuries, it becomes significant. The Julian calendar gains on the true solar year by about 1 day every 128 years. Or, put another way, about 3 days every 400 years.
Okay, so over 16th century, that's quite a few days.
By the 16th century AD, the cumulative effect was noticeable. The vernal equinox, the astronomical start of spring, which should be around March 21st, had drifted backward on the Julian calendar by about 10 days. It was falling around March 11th.
And why did that matter so much? Was it just astronomers complaining?
No, this was a major problem for the church. The primary catalyst for the next big reform was Easter.
Right, the most important date in the Christian calendar.
And its calculation was tied directly to the vernal equinox. The First Council of Nicaea, way back in 325 AD, had decreed that Easter should be the first Sunday after the first full moon occurring on or after the vernal equinox, and they fixed that equinox date as March 21st in the Julian calendar.
But if the actual equinox was now happening around March 11th,
Yes.
then the church's calculations, based on a March 21st equinox, were becoming increasingly divorced from celestial reality, as our sources put it. The timing of their most sacred observance was drifting out of sync with the heavens. This was a serious theological and liturgical problem.
So they needed another fix. Yes. The issue was discussed for centuries, but the Council of Trent in the mid-16th century finally gave the Pope the authority to sort it out. Pope Gregory III took on the task.
And he assembled a commission. Experts again.
Astronomers,
Right.
mathematicians. The key figures were Aloysius Lilius, who developed the main proposal, and Christopher Clavius, a Jesuit mathematician who refined it and championed it. They aimed for a solution that was accurate, but also pragmatic and relatively easy to implement.
What did they come up with? What's the Gregorian reform?
2 main parts. First, a one-time correction to fix the accumulated drift. To bring the vernal equinox back to its proper date of March 21st, they needed to eliminate the 10 extra days the Julian calendar had gained since Nicaea.
Just skip 10 days.
Yep. The papal bull Intergravissimus, issued in February 1582, decreed that Thursday, October 4th, 1582, would be immediately followed by Friday, October 15th, 1582. 10 dates just vanished from the calendar overnight in the countries that adopted it.
Wow. Must have felt very strange. What happened to October 5th through 14th?
I imagine so. Rent due, birthdays missed, but that reset the alignment. The second part was a new leap year rule to prevent the drift from happening again.
How did they improve on Caesar's rule?
It was a subtle but brilliant tweak proposed by Lilius. Keep the basic leap year every 4 years rule. However, century years, like 1700, 1800, 1900, would no longer be leap years
Oh,
unless they are divisible by 400. So 1700, 1800, 1900 were not leap years in the Gregorian system. But the year 2000 was a leap year because 2000 is divisible by 400.
clever. So that removes 3 leap days every 400 years compared to the Julian system.
Exactly. Instead of 100 leap days in 400 years, Julian, you get 97 Gregorian. This makes the average length of the Gregorian calendar year 365.2425 days.
Which is much closer to the true 365.2422 days.
Incredibly close. The remaining error is tiny, something like 1 day in about 3,300 years. A vast improvement in long-term accuracy.
So problem solved, right? Everyone adopts the new, better calendar.
Ah, if only it were that simple. Remember the context. 1582. This is the height of the Protestant Reformation. The Pope decrees this change.
So the Catholic countries probably went along with it.
Spain, Portugal, France, the Italian states, Poland, yes, they adopted it pretty much immediately in 1582 or 1583.
But the Protestant countries,
Largely rejected it. They saw it as a popish plot, an attempt by the Pope to assert authority over them. They weren't about to change their calendar just because Rome said so.
so Europe ended up with 2 different calendars running side by side. That sounds chaotic.
It was. For over a century, you had this split. Imagine trying to do international trade, diplomacy, even just corresponding with someone across the channel. You always had to specify which calendar date you were using, old style, Julian, or new style, Gregorian.
When did the others finally switch?
It was a slow, staggered process. Protestant German states and Denmark, Norway waited until 1700. Great Britain and its colonies, including America, held out until 1752.
By which time the gap was bigger.
Yep, the Julian calendar had drifted another day, so they had to skip 11 days in September 1752. Sweden had a bizarre, gradual transition. Russia only switched after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1918. Greece was the last major European country in 1923.
Which leads to that famous historical oddity.
The October Revolution.
Right.
The Bolsheviks seized power on October 25, 1917, according to the Julian calendar still used in Russia. But on the Gregorian calendar used by most of the world then, that date was November 7th.
So when Soviet Russia adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1918, the event kept its original name.
Exactly. Forever known as the October Revolution that actually happened in November by our calendar. It's a perfect little capsule of how history, politics, and timekeeping get tangled up.
Absolutely. And it highlights that while the Gregorian system eventually won out for global civil use, it's just one way humans have tackled time. There are other fascinating systems out there.
Definitely. We should touch on a few. The Hebrew calendar, for instance. It's described in our sources as a mathematically elegant lunisolar system.
Lunisolar. So it tracks both moon and sun. How does it work?
It was largely codified by Hillel II back in the 4th century AD. It uses that 19-year Metonic cycle we discussed, inserting 7 leap years within each cycle. Those leap years have an extra 13th month called Adar Aleph.
And that keeps its holidays aligned with the seasons, like Passover in the spring.
Precisely. Its calculations are quite complex, designed to ensure key festivals fall in their traditional seasons. And its starting point, its epoch, is considered 3761 BC, the traditional date of creation in Judaism. Years are marked Anno Mundi in the year of the world.
Okay, then there's the Islamic calendar. You mentioned it's purely lunar.
Yes, the world's most prominent purely lunar calendar. 12 months based on lunar cycles, making a year of 354 or 355 days. Critically, it uses no intercalation, no leap months to align with the solar year.
So it deliberately drifts against the seasons.
Correct. Its year is consistently about 11 days shorter than the Gregorian year. This means its months and festivals, like Ramadan, slowly regress through all the seasons over a cycle of about 33 years. Its epoch is the Hijra, the Prophet Muhammad's migration from Mecca to Medina in 622 AD, so years are Anno Hijrae.
Fascinating contrast. What about the Chinese calendar?
Another incredibly sophisticated system guiding agriculture and festivals in China for millennia. It's also lunisolar, using lunar months and adding intercalary months.
Similar to the Hebrew calendar, then.
In principle, yes, but with unique features. It integrates 24 Jiki, or solar terms. These mark specific points in the solar year, solstices, equinoxes, points halfway between them, and they are crucial for agriculture. The rules for inserting the leap month are actually tied to these solar terms.
And it has that cycle of years.
The 60-year sexagenary cycle, yes, used continuously for naming years, months, and days for thousands of years. It combines a cycle of 10 heavenly stems and 12 earthly branches, often associated with animals. Very complex, very rich tradition.
And we can't forget the Mayan calendars from ancient Mesoamerica. They had multiple systems, right?
Yes, a really complex interconnected system, not just one calendar, but several operating simultaneously. There was the Sulcan, a 260-day sacred calendar.
260 days. That doesn't sound astronomical.
It doesn't seem directly tied to the sun or moon. Scholars speculate it might relate to the human gestation period or maybe the cycle of maize cultivation. Our sources call it a uniquely human and agricultural calendar. It combined 20-day names with 13 numbers.
Okay. What?
Then there was the Hab, their civil calendar. This one did approximate the solar year. It had 18 months, each with 20 days. That's 360 days, plus a final short month of 5 days called Wabe.
18 times 20 plus 5.
Yeah.
365 days.
Right.
Like the Egyptians, did it have a leap day?
No, the classic Hab seems to have been exactly 365 days, so it would have slowly drifted against the seasons too, though much slower than a lunar calendar. Those 5 Wabe's days were considered unlucky, a dangerous time.
And these two calendars work together.
Yes, the Tzolk'in and the Hab interwove to create the calendar round. A specific combination of a Tzolk'in date and a Hab date wouldn't repeat for 18,980 days,
Oh, shit.
52 Hab years, or 73 Tzolk'in years. Reaching the age of 52 was thus a very significant milestone in Mayan culture, like completing a major life cycle.
And they had one more for long-term history.
The long count. This was a linear calendar, just counting the total number of days elapsed since a mythical creation date. We calculate that date as August 11th, 3114 BC in our Gregorian calendar.
And this is the calendar that caused all the fuss about 2012.
Exactly. The long count is organized into cycles. December 21st, 2012 marked the end of a major cycle called a Baktun, 144,000 days. It was simply the rollover to the next cycle, like an odometer ticking over. But it got wildly misinterpreted in popular culture as predicting the end of the world.
A classic case of misunderstanding a complex system. So much variety in how people have tracked time. Let's shift to some fun curiosities. The words themselves. Where does calendar come from?
It's Roman. Comes from the Latin word calendae. This was the name for the first day of the Roman month. It's related to the verb calere, which means to call out.
Oh, haul out.
Yeah, because originally on the first day of the month, the pontifex, the priest, would publicly call out or announce the new moon, officially starting the month and announcing the dates of key points like the nones and ides.
The calendar, yeah.
That was originally an account book, because debts were often due and interest calculated on the calends the first of the month. So our word for timekeeping comes from Roman debt collection.
Huh. That's brilliant. And the month names, we touched on them mostly Roman gods, emperors, and those leftover numbers.
Right. Janus for January, February for February, Mars for March, possibly a Pereira to open for April's blossoms, Maia for May, Juno for June. Then the big ones, Quintilis, 5th, becoming July for Julius Caesar, and Sextilis, 6th, becoming August for Augustus Caesar, permanently stamping the calendar with imperial power.
And September, October, November, December, just the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th months hanging on from that old 10-month system.
Yeah.
Linguistic ghosts.
Exactly. Now, speaking of those reforms, we mentioned the Year of Confusion in 46 BC being 445 days long, the longest year ever. What about the opposite losing days?
Right, the Gregorian switch. 1582 in Catholic countries, October 4th was followed by October 15th. 10 days vanished.
And then in Britain and America in 1752, they had to skip 11 days. Wednesday, September 2nd was followed by Thursday, September 14th.
Can you imagine the reaction? People must have been worried. Losing wages, paying rent for days that didn't exist.
There were definitely real concerns and confusion, landlords demanding full rent, employers docking pay. But our sources clarify something important. The popular story you sometimes hear about widespread riots, people chanting, "Give us our 11 days," that seems to be largely a myth.
Really? Where'd it come from?
It likely originated from a satirical painting by William Hogarth depicting election chaos around that time. It captures the anxiety, but there's little historical evidence of actual mass riots demanding their days back. It shows how even necessary scientific changes can spark social anxiety when they mess with something as fundamental as the daily passage of time.
Okay, and let's quickly recap the leap year itself. Essential mechanism for solar calendars. Proposed by Egyptians, implemented by Caesar, refined by Gregory.
Exactly. The Egyptians proposed it in the Canopic Reform, 238 BC, but didn't adopt it. Caesar made it standard, 1 extra day every 4 years. The Romans actually called it a bisextile year, twice 6th, because they doubled the sixth day before the calends of March, which was February 24th in their counting.
But it convoluted.
Yeah, our February 29th is simpler. Then Pope Gregory XIII's commission fine-tuned it with that skip 3 century years out of 4 rule, making it much more accurate long-term.
So the Gregorian calendar we use today, it's accurate, it's global, but is it perfect? Our sources suggest maybe not. What are the complaints?
Well, despite its global utility, critics point to several inefficiencies and, frankly, irrationalities. For one, it's not perennial. January 1st falls on a different day of the week each year, so you constantly need a new calendar layout. Dates don't consistently fall on the same weekday year after year.
Annoying for scheduling. What else?
Month lengths are all over the place, 28, 29, 30, or 31 days. It's irregular. And the 4 quarters of the year are unequal 90 days, 91, or 92 in a leap year. That complicates business accounting, comparing quarterly results fairly.
And the week doesn't fit neatly into months or years.
Right. The 7-day week, which is a really ancient, purely social construct, just runs continuously, completely independent of the solar or lunar cycles the calendar tries to track. So months start on different weekdays, contain fractional numbers of weeks. It's mathematically messy.
Given these flaws, have people proposed alternatives, ways to make it more rational?
Oh, numerous reform proposals have emerged over the last century or so. Most aim to create a perennial calendar, one that's the same every single year.
What would that look like?
One well-known example is the International Fixed Calendar, pushed by Moses Cotsworth early in the 20th century. His idea was radical. 13 months, each exactly 28 days long.
13 months. 13 times 28 is 364 days.
Exactly. Each month would have 4 perfect 7-day weeks. Every month starts on a Sunday, ends on a Saturday. Any dates, say the 15th, would always be a Sunday. He even named the extra month Sol, inserted between June and July.
What about the 365th day and leap day?
They become blank days. A year day added after December 28th, belonging to no month and no week. And a leap day added similarly in leap years. Eastman Kodak actually used this calendar internally for decades, from 1928 to 1989.
Wow. Any other big proposals?
There's a world calendar promoted by Elizabeth Akelis. It's more conservative, keeping 12 months. It creates 4 identical 91-day quarters. Each quarter has months of 31, 30, and 30 days. It's perennial, too.
How does it handle the extra days?
Also with blank days. A World's Day after December 30th and a leap year day after June 30th in leap years. These days stand outside the normal weekly cycle.
And more recent?
A newer idea is the Henry Permanent Calendar. Also aims for a perennial 364-day structure. 4 quarters, months of 30, 30, 31. Its big innovation is dealing with the extra time differently, instead of blank days.
Yeah.
It adds a full extra week, called extra, at the end of December every 5 or 6 years. This keeps the 364-day structure most years, but adds a whole week when needed to stay aligned.
And the advantage of that approach?
Its key selling point is preserving the sanctity of the uninterrupted Sabbath cycle. By adding a full week, the 7-day cycle is never broken, unlike with blank days. This addresses a major objection from religious groups.
Oh, okay, so we have these logical perennial calendar proposals. Some seem quite elegant. Why are we still using the slightly clunky Gregorian calendar? What are the hurdles to reform?
They are immense, deeply rooted obstacles. The biggest one, especially for plans with blank days, is religious.
Breaking the weekly cycle.
Exactly. For observant Jews, Christians, and Muslims, the continuous 7-day cycle culminating in the Sabbath, or Sunday or Friday, has been uninterrupted for millennia. Inserting a day that belongs to no week is simply unacceptable theologically for many. The Henry plan tries to solve this, but even that faces resistance.
What else besides religion?
Just sheer inertia and infrastructure. The Gregorian calendar is utterly woven into the fabric of modern civilization. Think about it. It's hard-coded into virtually every computer system, every piece of software, every legal contract, every historical database on the planet.
Changing it would be a nightmare.
The logistical complexity and the financial cost of a global transition would be absolutely staggering. It would make the Y2K problem look like a walk in the park.
Plus, is there really a strong need?
That's the other key point. For most people, most businesses, the Gregorian calendar's flaws are, let's be honest, minor inconveniences. They aren't critical failures stopping society from functioning. It's astronomically accurate enough. It's universally understood. It works.
So the benefits of a more rational system just don't outweigh the colossal disruption a change would cause.
Precisely. The modern calendar debate really boils down to this clash. Logical rationalization versus the incredible power of global tradition and interconnectedness. The Gregorian calendar's main value today isn't its theoretical perfection, it's its universality. It's the shared standard we all agree on.
So any future reform seems unlikely.
Highly unlikely, unless some truly monumental benefit emerges that could possibly justify the immense social, religious, and technological cost of breaking with a 400-year-old global consensus. The central question has shifted. It's no longer what is the best possible calendar, it's now is a better calendar worth the cost of global disruption?
And for the foreseeable future, the answer remains.
A firm no.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway from this journey through timekeeping?
I think it's that calendars are so much more than tools for organizing dates. They're this profound testament to human ingenuity, our deep-seated desire to find order in the cosmos.
But also shaped by very human forces.
Exactly. Social needs, political power, religious beliefs, they all played a huge role in shaping something we often think of as purely objective, like time itself.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Our universal reliance on the Gregorian calendar, it isn't just about its scientific accuracy anymore. It's really about a collective agreement, isn't it? A shared rhythm that lets our incredibly interconnected world function.
A global consensus.
Yeah. So imagine if you could press a button right now and instantly switch everyone to a theoretically perfect perennial calendar. What unknown disruptions might ripple out simply because you broke with centuries of shared human rhythm, tradition, and belief systems tied to the old way?
What does that tell us about the true nature of time as humans experience it, beyond just the astronomical facts?
Something to think about. So the next time you glance at your calendar on your phone, on the wall, maybe take a second. Think about the millennia of observation, calculation, political struggles, and compromises that went into creating that simple grid.
It's more than just a date. It's a story written in the stars, etched in stone, argued over by popes and emperors, and ultimately shaped by human will across thousands of years.